Much evidence is out there now that, using the running example, it's not good. Stop doing it.
There is another question. They said, "What do you guys think about running 5 or more miles?" I think they said a day. I don't know, but we'll say that a day. I started 2 years ago after my first son passed away from CHD, lost 63 pounds, and have been nonstop since. I lift 3 times a week and I run at least 5 miles a day. Look, if that works for you and you enjoy it and it helps you, then who's to say that it's not good?
Yeah, you don't.
Me.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
great.
See, I
The
don't know, but the fact to me is this person's moving every day. I think that's great. And it also helps them probably mentally, what they're saying. It helps them cope with that loss. How is that
right.
bad, John?
Running is an interesting phenomenon in the physical world.
Mhm.
People say, well, running's natural. That's probably the most natural exercise you can do. The cavemen ran. They did, okay? But they ran in the woods, in the forest, in the jungle, where the footing was soft, okay? You're out there pounding on the pavement, completely different story. We also, cavemen, didn't run 5 miles for the hell of it every day. They ran to chase the food, okay? So, or the woman. There's no other reason to run. So it was sporadic. It wasn't regimented every day, pound, 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 pound. So you pounded on your knees, on your hips, on your low back with this. You got to remember, if let's say Frankie weighs what, 240?
Yeah.
Okay. So 240 on 2 feet. So you got 120 pounds on each foot, basically bouncing. When you lift your body up into the air and come down on one foot, it is no
Mhm.
longer 120 pounds. It's magnified by an order of magnitude because you're concentrating that weight into a smaller and smaller spot. In fact, I'll
Mhm.
give you an example of how this really works. Back in the day, when women first started wearing spiked heels, okay, they had to repave the sidewalks in Manhattan because they pitted the sidewalks because so much of their weight was focused on 1/4 square inch of their heel. So every step they took, it was like pounding this nail into the sidewalk, and they literally broke up the sidewalk. They had to like redo them. So
Wow.
think about running. So your foot is only like, this big. You got all of that force pounding down onto one foot on the sidewalk, on the street, or wherever you're running. And that is continually aggravating all of your joints. So now multiply that by 5 miles. 5 miles every day on the street. You're asking for trouble, dude. It's just not, you are not going to last. You can do it when you're 20. You might be able to get through it through your 30s. 40, 50, 60, not happening. Then you're going to get the guys say, oh, I'm 83 years old and I run 10 miles every day. Yeah, you're 80 pounds. You have, you just started doing it when you were 60, and you're not, you barely move. It's like a slow jog. So
Yeah.
you got to pay attention to the future, and that's the problem with most people who are kicking it today. They're crushing it in the gym, but they're not paying any attention to 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. What's this going to do to me? And so much evidence is out there now that, using the running example, it's not good. Stop doing it. But you're not going to get
Moderate,
through to these people.
moderation,
Right.
moderation,
Right. Right.
moderation. I only run when being chased. I like
Yep.
walking. That's honestly. So I had both knees fixed 5 years ago. I had two meniscus tears and an ACL issue in both of my knees, and I waited. I got 3 gel shots over the years, cortisone shots, and I waited too long because once I got it done, it was like my knees were 20 years old
Right.
again. So my knees were like, so now I'm like, okay, do I make the decision to now go super intense on these knees with 500, 600 pounds, like squats and start running up hills? No. Or do I want them to last into my 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever? So instead of running, I do hikes and walks. And to intensify it, I'll wear a weighted
Okay.
vest or what have you. If for squats, I'm doing high repetitions like Tom Platz, sometimes even 100 reps, 50 reps just to, you know, because look, as John's right, as you get older, things fall apart. Like, I know a ton of runners who have hip issues, shin issues, knee issues, whatever. But it's the same thing with people who go intense with bodybuilding too,
Mhm.
tearing pecs, tearing shoulders because they're 50 years old and they're trying to bench 600 pounds again. It's not going to happen. So you really got to think about the future when you're putting
But
your workout together.
but you're talking about sports then too, right? Because any sport that you do, you're going to have a shelf life for it, right? So you're talking about figuring out the way to do it for longevity. And I get
Yeah.
that. I think that's a good point, John, because I certainly didn't do things when I was younger that had that in mind. And I'm paying for it now in a lot of ways that even in the last year and a half or year or two, it's really caught up and it kind of hits you all at once. So I get that, but I also understand somebody that gets pleasure out of running. It does something for them. I also get that especially if it helps them overcome some grief and it also gives them clarity. So I don't know. I guess I get both sides of it. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to, I don't run. I hate it. Like I'm going to start running more. I've been running more, but I couldn't do that. But I also like to train and I do things that I certainly know aren't going to be fantastic for my body when I'm training, but I do it
You
just
got to
because
mix it
I'm,
up.
yeah, exactly. I like it. Why not?